Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, finding a balanced approach is key. By a raise of hands, how many of us have been on a seesaw or know what a seesaw looks like? This is interesting. It looks like your childhood was really fun. How many of us know what a seesaw now looks like, in cases of us that did not have an idea about it? I'd like to believe that we now know what a seesaw looks like and how it feels like. Quite an interesting joyride, but a sad one in my history because I was of great mass, so I'd always be this guy. I wouldn't always be on the top of the seesaw. And this is the same society that we're in today, an imbalanced society where you and I are always fighting over who is going to be on top. Now, looking at this, look at this seesaw. Where would you want to be if you were given an opportunity, A or B? B? What if it became this way? Would you still want to be on B? You'd want to change, isn't it? This already shows you the inequalities we have in today's society, because when one is on the other side, would always still want to fight to be on the other side as well, because we want to thrive and enjoy. But because of this, it causes inequality. But then what imbalances am I talking about? I'm talking about the imbalances in terms of humanity, imbalances in terms of how we as human beings treat each other, the imbalance between men and women. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to share with you two stories. One, this individual is always told, look, listen here, you have to be strong, you don't cry, you have to hustle, you have to make a living. And their reaction is always, yeah, I was raised from the ghetto, I'm gonna be like the ghetto because I'm from the hood, ain't nobody gonna change me. The second story, this individual is always taught, you're beautiful, you are enough, you're powerful, you are worthy. By these two stories, how many of us imagined a girl within the first story, or a boy? If you imagine a girl, raise your right hand. If you imagine a boy, perhaps at your left hand. Wonderful. So you can look at, there's few that raised right, which is a girl. That story depicts a boy. What do we then get out of that story? The second story, how many of us imagined a girl or a boy? We saw a girl in that story. Wonderful. This then in itself shows you that the society we live in, the challenges that that boy had are three things. Number one, IQ, EQ, AQ, which is emotional quotient, intelligence quotient, and adversity quotient. Ladies and gentlemen, you would see that a society where one is taught to keep inside, don't cry, it hounds them on the emotions, because at the end of the day, the way they treat you, the way they actually engage with you will actually depict from their emotions. Henceforth, we have broken societies because how many of us tell boys or men, it's okay to cry? How can you cry? How should you actually evolve from your tears in order for you to actually engage with other personnel? Because when one is not having that, it is a problem in society which will cause an imbalance between you and I. Secondly, we have intelligence quotient. Trust me, by a raise of hands, we all know that how many university graduates come out male? The imbalance, isn't it? It will show you that a lot of graduates are female. It's not a bad thing. I vouch and love women empowerment. Believe you me. What I'd like to show you is that when one is not has no intelligence quotient, they then have problem-solving skills that are weak. Their critical thinking is weak, and that the way they deal with solutions or perhaps address certain things would be at a lower standard. And this is what we do not want, because this does not grow societies. Imagine you're speaking to someone about the fourth industrial revolution, and they look at you and say that, no, you are wasting money. Let's go and drink beer. Look at that. It's not a bad thing, but then the bad part is that because they never had that opportunity to be trained on that, it will cause an imbalanced society when women speak about the change we need, of which it's true. Because a gentleman or a man is not intelligent quotient, they will never support it. Henceforth, the society, the world that we live in, keeps on going down a drain, which we do not want. Similar to this, in terms of intelligence quotient, one then goes to an extent of finding means of survival. Means of survival in what means? Doing illegal businesses, or perhaps stripping people out. Thirdly, IQ, adversity quotient. How do you, as an individual, deal with the changes in society? You know, it's very hard to deal with heartbreaks, rejection. I, for one, must say I suffered that consequences. Growing up and you get your first heartbreak from a girl, yo, yeah, honey. It's very, very painful. You even think like, man, I will never date any girl, because the next thing I thought of was, if I find any girl, I will show her that, look, I will be on defense mode of like a boxer, like, you can't hit me this time, because I was broken. And henceforth, I might not give out my all. But not only that, adversity quotient robs from society. Because this boy that I mentioned, that we all identified in the first story, was always told, be strong, you don't cry. And their mindset was, I'm from the hood, I'm from the Kasi. What I am is what I do. So they have never accepted to the changes of how the world is evolving. Henceforth, we always see men either body shaming women, or either perhaps boys actually not being engaging in terms of certain clusters in society. This as well corresponds to workplaces. How does this then impact or have an effect on our lives? It becomes very, very dangerous, because look, if I can't cope with adversity, then it leads to passion killing, which we see in today's world. It is very sad that a lot of young men have died for the past week in Namibia. Status quo shows this from the newspaper articles that have proven this, and you can read up on in the Namibian. And it pains me when I ask myself, what happened? Is it that they were going through something emotional that they couldn't speak about, or they couldn't deal with the adversity, or perhaps the mindset could not solve the problem, or could not seek for that problem? Ladies and gentlemen, that shows you that that is what has been lacking in the first individual, and that's how it causes an imbalance in today's society in that context. To the second story, we have unconditional social validation. Believe you me, there is nothing beautiful that we then thrive or enjoy more than self-affirmation, to then say, or affirmations. When you wake up in the morning, you look into the mirror and go like, you know what? I'm cute even if I have a forehead. I look good, ne? Yeah. And then you all walk out. Or perhaps you have a squeaky voice. You would be very confident, because the moment you tell yourself all these good things, and the moment people around you help you grow, you will be confident to even move further. Where do we see this? This we see in the second story that I told you about, where she is told, you're beautiful, you are enough, you are gorgeous. What does this do to a human mindset? It trains her to be who she is, for what she is, and for what she can become. However, the imbalances comes in when we have conditional and unconditional social validation, where from an African context or a cultural context, you would then say, Lloyd, if you don't have a house or a car or a vurpa, you will never get married to any beautiful lady that is educated. Conditioned. Maria, you look beautiful. Just bath every day, you'll get married. Conditioned. Unconditionally. But if you see how people are then placed, very, very interesting. How does this then cause an imbalance in today's society? It causes an imbalance in the context whereby people then do not know who they are and how they cope. What society or what world do I want you to imagine? What world does it look like when we have a balanced society? We have a world where there is peace, a world where there is equality, a world in a society where there is love. Trust me, love is one of the greatest things above all. But what about love if you do not have respect? And what is a society that does not have integrity? All these are the imbalances that we see in today's society, from IQ, AQ, EQ, unconditional social validation, which makes us fail to find this society that we want to look and live in. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you might be wondering, interesting, right? This is the society we're imagining, Lloyd. Wonderful. What then? This is what will happen then. How do we go about it? Let us educate the boy child, men, as well as women and girls in terms of emotional intelligence or emotional quotient. How do they cope with their emotion? When is it, how do you cry? How don't you cry? How do you deal with your emotions so that you don't fire your receptionist because your wife didn't cook for you? How do you then deal with intelligence quotient? Because trust me, in Africa, Namibia, narrowing it down to Windhoek, let's go back to the streets of Katutura, the streets of the town. By a raise of hands, how many of us encountered more of the girl child in the street as a street kid or the boy child? Obvious. If you go out now, you'd either find either a street kid being a male dominantly in this regard. Now the question comes, will you then be happy? Or would you feel safe if this was the same person that you then saw the next thing stepping into this venue? You wouldn't. But then the problem is that you'd feel they are not part of society, which causes an imbalance, because we then tend to shift people that do not have certain norms. We put them under certain validation criteria, which causes an imbalance. At the end of the day, what if this individual was trying to hustle, was trying to make a living for their little siblings that are at home? What if that young person that always asks you, Meme, Tate, in the Namibian context, in Oshambo, $1 please. What if that dollar was because they never had the same opportunity as the girl child had? What if that same scenario has then put them to start selling drugs, and because of that, they are dealing with a lot of emotional trauma, depression, and the next thing we read in the Namibian is street kid has committed suicide? What if that is what is happening? How can we then go about it? We need to do what is done on the left to be done on the right. How do we imagine this society? How does it look like? Ladies and gentlemen, a balance is not something you find. It is something you create. By Jana Kingsford. I repeat this. A balance is not something you find. So I wouldn't come and say, oh, I am balanced, but it's something you create. We can create this society that we want to live in. We can create a society where men, women, females or males, boys or girls thrive together and create a balanced society whereby when the boy child says, look, I love your dress, the girl child can also say, look, I love your feet, even if you don't have shoes, they are cute. You get me? What this then does, it creates a whole positive engagement whereby, imagine, I challenge you, when you go out, say something wonderful to any young person, either it being in the street. You can even compliment them. It doesn't necessarily need to kill you, to just say, yo, I've never seen someone dirty, but dirty in a good way. You look clean and neat, and this is what I can do for you. Now, why is very important for us to then go through this way. I challenge you to use this balanced approach key. I then give you this key whereby I speak about EQ, educate the boy child. If what is done by the girl child in terms of girl child empowerment, girl child education, women in entrepreneurship, women in business, women in leadership. Can we also replicate that to the boy child? In the same manner and vein, not to say that there is no imbalance from the girl child. There is also what I would like to say power dynamics. In terms, one would say, yes, we have a balanced society. Women and men are in the same venue or organization. But how many women are CEOs that are men, that are women? How many women are actually sitting on these positions that are within higher authority? That in itself already shows you there's a what? Imbalance. But how do? We can create a balanced society whereby if as a man, I then know that, look, the same seesaw we're playing on, it doesn't mean we'd always get a balanced seesaw at the end of the day, but we need to acknowledge each other's joy. If you're going up, I should celebrate you. And you should also understand that my celebration for you is for you to also celebrate me for helping you go up. Similar applies when one pushes the other in that regard. So this is a society I then imagine when I speak about a balanced approach. A society where everyone is happy, where no one is left out, where no one feels neglected. Ladies and gentlemen, with this, I then like to challenge you and say, as you go out, take this key, help yourself balance the communities that we live in, and actually think about the world on how it would look like. Will it be peaceful if you and I had the same IQ? Will it be peaceful and powerful, or love will evolve if you and I had emotional adversity intelligence? Will it be beautiful if you and I had the same knowledge of education and helping us develop this country? Believe you me, take this key, work on yourself, work on the people around you, because it all begins within your context in order for you to find a balanced key approach. Thank you.